When a typical veteran starts looking into using their post 9/11 or Montgomery GI Bill for flight trading, inevitably one of the first schools that they stumble upon is Liberty University. I stumbled upon the very same thing, the same route that you, senior viewer, are on right now. I went to Liberty University using their online flight program for about 2 semesters. Honestly, wasn't that much of a fan of it, and I would advise you to look somewhere else.
Oh, what a stroke of luck.
If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps me out, and it helps the channel out, helps other veterans find these videos. Now, before I get into this, I'll just put out a little disclaimer because I've already had it on some of my Liberty University videos in the past. Someone always inevitably comments, "But what if it's my only option?" Of course, bud, if it's your only option and being a pilot is your dream, it's your goal, then yeah, I guess you should probably choose Liberty University. This video is for people who do have an option. Either there's maybe a different 141 degree program around you, or you're open to move. This video is for those people. If you don't have an option, yeah, you should pick Liberty. There were about 4 or 5 things that I didn't like about Liberty University. So the first one, double ground schools. So when I went to Liberty University online, I went for my private pilot license. And for Liberty University online, I had to do a ground school online through Liberty King Schools to satisfy the requirement for that private ground course. At the same time, I also had to do a ground school in person with my FTA, and I would have had to been doing that double ground school through my private, instrument, and commercial. So throughout the entirety of each one of those certificates, I would have had to been doing double ground schools, and that just doesn't really make sense to me. The FTA wants to fulfill their requirements, and Liberty University wants to fulfill their requirements. So I was stuck doing double ground schools, which was a waste of time. The second thing was lower housing allowance. Now, they may have fixed this, because back a few years ago, there was a whole debacle with Liberty and some of their FTAs, and they basically got put on notice by the VA, and they had to stop training for a bit. And I heard that one of the things that got fixed was the housing allowance, but I'm not sure on that. It's something worth for you to look into. But anyways, so the housing allowance, whenever you're going to school online, you're going to get a lower rate than what you would if you were going in person, even just for 1 credit. If you have 1 class in person, you'll get that normal rate. And when you're using Liberty University online, the VA is paying Liberty University, and to them, you're going to school online. But even though you are going to school with this FTA and you're taking flight courses, but it's Liberty University's who's paying your FTA. To the VA, you're still, at least in this time, again it may have changed, you're going to school online, so you're not going to get that full rate. I don't know what percentage less it is, but it is significantly less. So if you think about that over the term of a whole degree, you're getting a lot less out of the GI Bill than you would if you went in person. The third thing, and maybe this is just my dislove for big governmental entities, but we all know that the VA is how the VA is. It's a big, slow bureaucracy like all of government, and normally the VA and your school, they communicate with each other, and the VA pays your school, and normally I would honestly say that goes pretty well. Whenever there's a hiccup, it's usually on the VA side, but both in-person schools I've used for it, it's worked pretty well. But when you do Liberty University online, now you have the VA, you have Liberty, and you have an FTA. So the VA has to pay Liberty, who has to pay your FTA. You're in the center of it all. The FTA that I went to didn't have a liaison at the FTA or anybody that communicated with Liberty University so that I could go and talk to them and say, hey, what's up with this, and this about Liberty? Or like, hey, can you give me some advice or some knowledge about this? Nobody basically knew anything about Liberty University or anything to help out the students, and it was kind of just left to figuring it out on your own or asking students who were already at the school who were Liberty students, and maybe they had figured it out, and then you could get some gouge from them. But otherwise, you were on your own. Now, the fourth and final thing, and the most important thing for me, I think, is the quality of the training and the equipment and just everything around that. I think that the 141 degree granting program that I am at now, the training is just night and day better. And I think that comes down to a lot of things. I think a big thing is the professors. I think the 141 in-person programs, it's easier for them to get more experienced instructors that have had experience at airlines or corporate or military, any of those. It's easier for them to get those types of people and people with doctorates, master's degrees. It's easier to get those types of people because they can pay them better. At these FTAs, especially the smaller FTAs, they don't have the money to pay a person who just came from the airlines or a person who has a doctorate degree in some sort of, aerodynamics or aviation safety management. They don't have the money to be able to pay that person, nor do they probably even have a safety management system. So then a lot of those people end up going to these 141 degree granting programs, which means that's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to draw on for those students that go to these 141 degree granting programs, say like a Kansas State University. It's going to be easier for a Kansas State University to pay those salaries than it is a smaller FTA. And I think a lot of these FTAs, what they get is time builders. They get people who are going in to build their time. They're trying to get their 1,000 hours. They're trying to get their 1,500 hours, and then they're off to the airlines. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's not anything against those people. Every flight training facility has those people, but it's good to have a little bit of a balance where you have people that are there, they care about the training, they're committed to that in the training there. And also, in an in-person training, you just get to know the professors a lot more. You don't get to know professors the same way through an online program. And the more you get to know professors, then they're invested in your training. Now, they care about seeing you do well, and that's going to lead to you getting better training. That may lead to you getting a recommendation or something in the future. But online, it's a lot harder to do that. It's a lot harder to garner relationships with professors in an online sense. And I would almost 50% of the time guarantee that every time an in-person professor is going to care more about his students than a online professor. That's just the way it is. And then outside of instruction and professors and, the experience of the personnel, the facilities are just a night and day difference. I'm flying 2005, going to be flying 2006, brand new Cessnas, G1000s in them. And before I was flying Piper Archers from 1970. Brand new facilities now with a CRJ simulator, and they give you classes to get ready for the airlines or to be ready for your first job flying a legit jet. But at FTAs, most of the FTAs are not going to have that sort of stuff. They also usually have a good relationship with the hiring authorities, at least at regional airlines, and that is a huge benefit for anybody who wants a job after they get done with all their flight certificates. So these are the reasons why personally I would steer away from Liberty University. If you have any sort of option, look for a 141 degree granting program. Make sure that school has been around for a little bit, at least 15 to 20 years. That way they've worked out the kinks, and that program as a whole has some experience and some reputation. So hopefully you found this video helpful and maybe it helps your aviation career in the future.